If I asked you point blank, why did your marriage not work? What would you attribute it to?
I honestly don't think I would even say it here on TV.
We've got all the bombshells from part 1 of the Keeping Up with the Kardashians reunion. Hey guys, welcome back to another Share News from Home. We have all the details on the moments you don't want to miss from the Keeping Up with the Kardashians reunion part 1. But before we get into it, if you are new here, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future updates. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Mariah Davis. We're going to kick things off here with an interesting revelation from Kim. She shared that she used to be, quote, desperate for fame. She denied ever calling the paparazzi on herself, said she never took it that far, but she did intentionally frequent places that she thought she may be spotted.
Anytime I would get hair and makeup for the show, there was no way I was going home and washing it off. I would stop off in Robertson. I would stop off at the Ivy to pick up something to go, even if it was like some bread.
So you guys, she was very calculated back in the day. She said, quote, I think I can talk about it because it's so funny. I think people need to be more honest about those moments in life where you're just super desperate. Now, it's interesting because that's Kim's starting point, but Kendall and Kylie both admitted that they can't even remember a time before they were famous. And Kris actually weighed in saying she doesn't like the famous for being famous label that the family has been given over the years. She said, quote, I think if you think about it, we're famous because we have a TV show, just like anyone else would be. We came along at a time where it was the perfect storm. So really interesting to hear this family kind of share their varying opinions of their fame over the years. I mean, if you really think about the journey they've been on, they've come such a long way. It's almost crazy. I mean, what were you thinking when you heard this, Mariah?
Oh my gosh, such a long way. I mean, the fact that she used to purposely calculate where she was going to show up with the hopes of it being caught by the paparazzi or getting attention from it. It's like they literally can't step out of the front door without people knowing about it. I feel like they have so much fame that has accumulated over the years. So gosh, they've come such a long way. But I think it also goes to show everyone's got to start somewhere. Even Kendall and Kylie, they said they can't remember a time where they weren't famous, and that's true, but they still imagine or look at where they are now compared to where they were when they were just young teenage girls. So again, everyone starts somewhere.
Yeah, and I mean, this family has found truly impressive careers. They've all become very successful in their own right, kind of separate from the show. The show almost at this point is just a thing they do. So very crazy to go way back to where it all began. Speaking of where it all began, Kim also shared that she doesn't really believe that Keeping Up would have been as successful as it of course was had that infamous sex tape not existed. She shared that she thinks everything happens for a reason, explaining, quote, luckily, I think that so many years have gone on and so many things have happened that it really erases that. She did share, though, quote, that is something that I have to live with for the rest of my life. That is something that's being held over my head.
I try not to have any regrets, but it's probably the one thing that I wish didn't exist. And if I could erase any of the stupid things that I've done in life, that's probably it. And it's more so from being a mom.
She confirmed to fans, during the special that as of now, she of course hasn't had to have any conversations with her kids about the tape. They are so young. But I think it's a conversation that she's very aware that one day she's going to be faced with. And of course, that is something really difficult to think about as a mom. But what's really interesting, Mariah, and I'm curious about your take on this, when she said she's done so much that it sort of erases that at this point, honestly, I frequently forget about the tape. It's not important. I don't think about it. That doesn't define Kim Kardashian for me. I mean, Kim said that she feels sort of like she's done so much that it's erased it. And honestly, I kind of agree. I think she's built a brand and a name for herself that really has nothing to do with that, all things considered. I mean, what is your thought?
I'm right there with you. I mean, I forget about it all the time because she is so much more than what she did. I mean, that's a really cliche thing to say, like a cliche saying you're more than, your past, but it's so true. I mean, I guess she thinks that the show maybe wouldn't have taken off the way it did without the sex tape. I don't know. I think over the years it would have gained traction because we fell in love with each of these individuals, how they interact with each other, their ambition, how they interact with the
Mhm.
world. So I think regardless, sex tape or no sex tape, we all would have ended up keeping up with the Kardashians at some point. But you're totally right. She has done so much. She is like she wants to be a lawyer. She's like working her butt off in school to better herself, to be more than a beautiful public figure. She's really out here trying to change lives and make an actual difference in the world rather than influencing people to buy a product or to buy her product. I say that as I'm literally wearing one of her products. But yes, I think all of the things that she has done definitely like completely cover that up. I'm like, what sex tape? But you know what? I do think that it is a shame that all these years later and all of the immense success that she has gained and helped her family gain throughout the years, she's still being asked about a sex tape. Like, I honestly hope that that is the last time anybody brings that up to her. I don't think that that's fair. You know, we don't need to continue to rub salt into a wound, something that still, kind of hurts her and that she does regret and wish didn't exist because she is a mom. Like being a mom, I feel like she has explained is like her what's most important to her in her life, is her kids and being a mom. So
Mhm.
naturally, like that's going to be an uncomfortable conversation to have with your kids. And of course, don't want by any means to set an example that isn't what you would want for your children. So that's going to be a really struggling moment for her. And I just hope that that is the last time that people bring up the sex tape and we can just leave it in the past where it belongs because she has done so much since then.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I mean, it feels like over the years she has had to go back and revisit this. And with the Keeping Up with the Kardashians chapter closing, it feels like it could be a very nice moment for that chapter and that conversation to close as well. Of course, the family has shared so much of their lives with fans over the years. And what's interesting is, in addition to getting really candid about like different moments of their lives during this reunion, they also got really candid about the hand and the role they've played in the show over the years. They're not just talent, right? This isn't The Bachelor, The Bachelorette, where they go on and they do their part and then they don't know what the edit's gonna be, how they're gonna be portrayed. I mean, they are producers, they have editing power, and they talked about regretting themselves personally giving the green light to certain moments, certain content over the years. Chloe especially regretted showing certain aspects of their private life on screen. I mean, we've talked about this before. Chloe has given so much to the show over the years. So it is kind of sad to hear that she has some regrets. One of those would be the infamous fight between Kourtney and Kim that escalated into a physical altercation. We all remember that. It was truly wild. Chris actually agreed that it was a touchy subject to make public, but the family actually unanimously decided to include it. So Kourtney, Kim, all members watched that footage and said, we're going to let this air. I think what's really interesting is we've always known they're very committed to keeping it real with fans, but when you isolate an instance like that fight between Kim and Kourtney in particular, I think the real conversation they probably had to have behind the scenes is things got that ugly. How do we portray a show to the world, without that storyline when everything else going on, in our lives is going to be affected by a fight this big? They have this, intense commitment to showing even some of their heaviest moments. And I don't think the show would truly be what it is, what we loved it for, without that kind of commitment. I mean, what do you think?
I completely agree. I mean, comparing it to other reality TV shows that follow families and how they interact with each other, how they interact with their friends, it really just they don't compare to Keeping Up with the Kardashians because they really do keep it so real. Sisters fight. My sister and myself, I think we got in like one fight that may have tiny bit escalated to a physical altercation, but not really because all it did was I threw ice at her. That was as far as it went. I threw ice at her and sisters fight, siblings fight. But I think other families are different. Every family is going to kind of operate differently. Every sibling is going to operate differently. So that is the honest truth of just how the world goes round, what happens within families. But it is a big move to put that out in front of the world to see like something that really escalated to a very serious degree between sisters, that love each other. Because what I think is probably why they look back at it now and kind of feel a little bit regret, because a lot of people I think formed opinions on Courtney and Kim, whether which team they were on, and started seeing both of them in a different light. And maybe that is something that's continued, like that maybe hurt their reputation a little bit with how they communicated with one another. I remember watching that thinking like, oh my gosh, I cannot imagine being spoken to that way by anybody, let alone my sister. So I definitely see why they may look back at that decision now and kind of regret sharing that, because some people have had certain opinions and they see them in a different light. But you know what? Like you said, I don't know if the show would be what it is today if they haven't been so committed to keeping it 100% real with people.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm with you. I remember watching that fight and I was like, I have a sister too. Like, I cannot imagine it getting to this level. But you think about how heightened and how sort of a unique experience they've had as this family with this kind of fame, with this kind of exposure. I mean, they live in a very different reality, and that's just kind of a part of the reality show that they signed on to do, right? I mean, they also opened up about struggling over the years to have and maintain like meaningful, trusting friendships. Courtney said, "Don't you remember having so many haters of our friends? Our close friends were such haters and so jealous." Going all the way back to when the show premiered, Chris became kind of alienated by her friend group. Chloe opened up about that on Chris's behalf, saying they really shunned you for a while, and then by like season 3 or 4, they now were all inviting her to things. And Kendall, talked about being bullied at school, literally being made fun of for being on a super successful television show. And this is still going on to this day. I mean, Kim recently tried to figure out which person from their inner circle was leaking information about them to the press. She actually used a photo of North, sent it out to different people, hoping that she could somehow nail down, if one of those people was the one that would maybe be leaking something. She did say she kind of lost track of it and was a failed effort, but what really just stood out to me is that what a world to live in where you take, a cute photo of your daughter that you're comfortable, obviously, getting out into the world, right? But you have to send it to your nearest and dearest, hoping that it doesn't land in the media. I mean, that is truly a very, very warped sense of life. It feels kind of sad. I mean, Kendall also opened up about how fame increases her struggles with anxiety. I think all of these kind of points just remind us that these amazing lives that they've had and the success that they've all found does come with a price. I mean, it's not all perfect all the time. There have been some struggles as well.
For sure. I mean, listen, anybody who has a dream to rise to fame and soak in the spotlight, that's great. Hope that works out for you. But I think a big message to take away from here is just like what you said, Fiona, it all comes with a price. I think when Chris started to talk about how her friends started to isolate her, that makes a lot of sense because it's unfortunate, but people get so threatened when someone they know starts to experience a certain amount more success than they do or more attention. And I don't know why that is. I don't know if it's a societal thing, if it's a female thing. I think it's more of a societal thing. I think people just get threatened by other people's success. And then once, later down the road, they see this person has really blossomed into this huge public figure, then everybody wants to be like, oh my gosh, we're such good friends. So that has to be so challenging to not really know who's in your corner, who's a real one. And I can imagine being in a position to where I have to test my friendships because I don't know which one of them is really like a truth or which one of them is just trying to get a check from TMZ. So I think that is definitely a huge price to pay. Like, I will say this all the time. I have a small group of friends, but what I have is a quality group of friends. Like, they are amazing, amazing men and women. And I just can't imagine being in a position to where I didn't have that group of friends to trust and rely on. And I had to question whether or not their intentions were pure or if they had hidden agendas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, imagine, of course, there are so many people out there who are so close to your family, but knowing that your immediate family are the only people who can even kind of truly relate to exactly what you're going through in your life is kind of isolating. But like we said, of course, all of this is a byproduct of the immense success they found, the immense fame, the immense fortune. So there is, pros and cons to each, I guess we'll say. Of course, Kris was the mastermind behind, her family sort of skyrocketing to their levels of career. She is the momager behind it all. And during the reunion, she actually revealed which daughter is the easiest to manage and which daughter is the most difficult. Now, I think most difficult, honestly, really didn't surprise me, but she revealed the easiest is Kendall, which is kind of interesting. Most difficult is Kourtney. Now, Kourtney explained, I don't want to do things if it's something I'm not really into doing. So my answer is no to most things. And if it's going to be yes, I want to know everything I'm being asked of. Kris does take a standard 10% manager cut of all of their deals. That's totally industry standard, nothing crazy there. And Khloe added, our mom is giving us our careers. It's only fair she's getting paid for that. And I mean, here's what's so wild about the Kardashians. A manager fee at 10% is super normal. It's just unique because it's all in the family, right? I mean, this is how they have become what they are. Kris definitely had a vision. I think she explained that she kind of threw spaghetti at the wall for all of her daughters and saw what would work. And of course, they continue to grow up and become more independent in their own careers. Did you see Kourtney potentially getting the label of most difficult? And what are your thoughts on Kendall? Kind of confused me at first, but she does have the most sort of traditional, straightforward. She doesn't have a bunch of businesses. She's a model. She works as a model. Of course, she now launched her tequila. But I guess I could kind of see how her career is maybe the easiest. What are your thoughts on this revelation from Kris?
I'm with you. I wasn't surprised that the most difficult was Kourtney because we've seen her be a real struggle during the show. I mean, not wanting to do certain photo shoots, not wanting to do whatever events that were already planned or the family was trying to plan. I think she just likes to live the life. Oh my gosh, this is a Kourtney quote. Just live in life. Like, what does she say? She says it all the time. We're just really living life. No one can say we didn't live life. So that's literally her motto. And that's what she does. And I feel like she doesn't like to do a whole lot. And that's fine. She's a great mom. She is a great sister, and she is just out here living life. So I was not surprised at all that that was her. But yeah, I did think it was interesting to hear that Kendall was the easiest, not because I had this misconception that she would be challenging to work with by any means, but I honestly I think I watched this Keeping Up show long ago when Kendall was a teenager and it was when she was getting into modeling. And Kim was kind of pushing her into the modeling career. And I think watching that episode, if I remember correctly, which if you guys watching remember this episode, you know what I'm talking about, you have to drop it in the comments. But Kendall was like not loving it. She didn't want to be there really. She had a typical teenager attitude about it. So I was surprised to learn that Kris was more of her momager. I honestly thought like Kendall's modeling career was due to more of Kim pushing her into that. But hey, we learn something new every day. But it is super, super interesting. They are paying their mom at the end of the day as if like she's an employee. And that's got to be a weird line to cross since it's all within the family. But my mom has been super supportive of me and all of my endeavors. So if I think about it, if I were in a position like theirs and she did as much for me with that career as Kris has done for her daughters, then yeah, she would definitely deserve a cut.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. There's a lot of jokes in the air about Kris having a favorite daughter. They made light of that. Of course she doesn't. She loves all of her kids equally, but they love to tease her about her relationship with Kylie. And Kylie did reveal a lot during the reunion. She touched on some subjects that she hasn't really talked about before. Of course, Kylie's lips were such a topic of discussion. Oh my goodness, for such a long time it felt like. And now, of course, she's gone on to grow this crazy empire out of, honestly, the obsession with her lips, which if you think about it is truly wild. This lip kit and now, full Kylie beauty empire can actually be traced back to an unsuccessful first kiss.
I had really small lips,
Okay.
and I didn't ever think about it until I had one of my first kisses, and a guy said to me, "Oh my God, you're such a good kisser. We have such small lips," or something like that.
And she said, quote, "From then on, I felt unkissable. I had an insecurity because this guy said something to me one time. Then I got an obsession with makeup. because I would overline my lips and that made me feel confident. She actually teased that she might name a lip kit after this guy because he is what really sent her on this path to literally becoming a billionaire, if you think about it. So anyways, interesting story there. I had no idea because obviously Kylie, listen, she was young. They didn't share a lot of their first kisses and all of that. We were not privy to that with Keeping Up with the Kardashians. They were too young for that chapter of their lives to be really talked about on the show. Another major moment in Kylie's life was, of course, when she was dating Tyga. They were on and off for close to 3 years, and their relationship wasn't really a part of the show either. She gave a little bit of an update on where things stand between them today. She said, quote, "We're not friends, but we're okay. If I see him out or if I run into him anywhere, I always wish him well. I have no bad feelings to him." So that's a little positive update there. Not too many details, but at least we know where they stand. She opened up as well about hiding her pregnancy. And this was honestly one of the most interesting things I think we saw.
I shared so much of my life. I was also really young when I got pregnant, and it was just a lot for me personally. I didn't know how I would bring that to the public too.
So kind of interesting there, talking about being in a place where she didn't even know how to begin to like broach the subject with fans, with the media, so she decided to keep it private. Obviously, we've never seen Travis on the show, and it's not because, you know, of some big conspiracy. He just never really wanted to be filmed, and Kylie never pressured him to be a part of it. They haven't ruled out rekindling things, which we're going to get into in a second. Kylie did say, though, quote, "I'm not thinking about marriage right now, but I hope to get married one day." Now, Mariah, we obviously just saw Kylie and Travis and Stormi together looking fabulous at an event. I mean, all of that, all of those revelations kind of just bring me to, I feel like Kylie is living her best life. She's in a really great place. And I'm really excited to see where she goes from here.
Oh my gosh, yes, I loved seeing them together. And with Stormi, you know, you and I actually covered a story where we were first talking about, you know, they were getting back together, but they were talking about having an open relationship. At least that was a rumor, which at the time we didn't know. We didn't know if there was any facts to that rumor, which apparently is not. But it's great to see them together because it's like, of course, we at Shared News, we say this all the time. We love a romance success story, a coming back together story. And you know what? To the point of marriage, we know just recently Travis referred to Kylie as wifey. We also know that Kylie is obviously very good at keeping secrets. She kept her pregnancy a secret the entire 9 months. We didn't find out until she was ready to share that, her and Travis and the family. So I'm just going to throw this out here. Maybe, just maybe, Travis and Kylie are already married. I mean, he's calling her wifey. I don't know. They're both very good at keeping secrets. And if they were, you know what, they would let us know when they were ready to. So for those of you listening, drop it down in the comments. What do you think? Do we think Kylie and Travis have already gotten married? Do you see marriage in their near future? But to what she said, she's not even thinking about marriage right now. And why should she? She's so young. She has so much time. There's absolutely no rush. There's no rush for marriage. You know, if Kylie and Travis can make a co-parenting relationship work with or without the romance, then that's great. But we just recently saw the three of them together and they look like such a happy family. So of course, naturally, I'm rooting for them to make it work.
Oh my God, I am so with you. I love that conspiracy theory too, because honestly, they have been very, very secretive. They always have. Clearly, I think they really mean a lot to each other. And like you said, she is so young. So it's going to be really exciting to just continue to be along for the ride for Kylie Jenner's journey through life. We're going to pivot back to Kim because she reflected on some relationships that were a major part of her life, starting with Paris Hilton. And she had actually some really interesting things to say here. She said, quote, "I will never ever think that I'm too good to not know where I came from or understand that she was a big part of my career and my life." Kim added, "Just being her friend for so long, she opened my mind to a whole nother world, and I will always be grateful for those experiences. We have a really good friendship now." So of course, we haven't seen Kim and Paris really be close. There's definitely a bit of a falling out there. But if you really think about it, I mean, pre everything else, Kim was Paris Hilton's BFF. So her journey, you know, really does start there. So it's great to see that those two kind of reconnected. I know Paris Hilton just shared a cute photo of them on her Instagram. So it feels like a whole new chapter for that friendship is blossoming. honestly, I have to say I really love. Enough about Paris, though, because we've got to talk about Kris Humphries. That was obviously a relationship from Kim's past that a lot of people were hoping she would dive into. They did tease this in the promos a little bit, but it's official. Kim revealed on this special that she considered being a runaway bride. Kourtney actually shared that she thought that Kim and Kris were a great match, but Khloe and Kris at the time did advise Kim to rethink marrying him. Kris remembered saying,
"If you really don't want to do this, I don't think you should do it. I think this could be a really bad idea.
No, what
and
you
if
said
you
to
want to
me
get
is,
out of it,
go. I'm going to put you in a car. No one will find you.
Right.
Just leave.
Kim shared that she felt a lot of pressure from the reality TV cameras not to be known as the runaway bride because, of course, you guys, their marriage was a whole production. I mean, it was a special. It was like the biggest thing. It was like a royal wedding, for Pete's sake. It was a huge deal. So if she had walked away, ran away from that marriage while cameras were rolling, oh my God, imagine the episode of reality television. But also, I understand how that being filmed is a kind of pressure. You know, something she didn't want to have to live with for the rest of her life. Of course, she did have to live with, 72 days, their marriage lasting, that label, but it's a little softer. Kim revealed, "I feel like I was going to let everyone down," and then gave some advice saying, if you have cold feet, for anyone out there listening, it's not it. Hindsight, of course, is always 2020. She did also share, though, that she feels she owes Kris an apology. She totally copped to handling it the wrong way. She shared some insight into Kris, explaining, quote, "He's very faith-based, and so I'm sure he would have loved to not have marriage on his record," revealing he wanted an annulment and explaining, quote, "The only legal way to get an annulment is if fraud is involved." So he marked fraud to get an annulment. So the whole world wondered, what is this fraud?
If I was mature, I would have wanted the annulment too. I wish I was only married once.
So this is really interesting because I don't know about you, Mariah, but I remember when the Kim and Kris marriage ended, it was like the world was on fire. It was the biggest story. Everyone was talking about it. Everyone had an opinion. Let's face it, Kim took a lot of heat at the time. I mean, this was a crazy moment in her life.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, and about 72 days later, the marriage ended, which I think a lot of people stopped taking Kim seriously. And knowing what we know now, who she is now, she's so much more than this beautiful influencer, business owner. I mean, she wants to be a lawyer. Like, there's so much more depth to her. But it's so crazy that she went into so much detail with this relationship with Kris Humphries and kind of like where they are now, how there's still kind of bad blood between them. I mean, it sounds like on her end, she doesn't want there to be, and she still is, very regretful for how things ended up, but that is the tricky part. That is the honest truth of, when people get married and they have a bad divorce, sometimes you can't get along in the future. But it was so interesting to hear her go into so much detail about her marriage to Kris Humphries and having cold feet. I mean, I didn't know that she was experiencing cold feet at all. Then she gave a little bit of advice to those who could be experiencing it right now. So that was really interesting. I mean, I think that's the type of material we were hoping to hear and to get from this tell-all reunion. So this was shocking to kind of get the inner details straight from Kim and Kris and everybody involved.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I totally remember watching all of this unfold on my TV screen and having so many questions. Granted, we had to wait a really long time to get answers to them, but now I feel like we really kind of have the full picture of what went down in that moment in her life. Coming back to today, fans have a lot of questions about what's going on with her and Kanye. And I think we might have to wait a little while longer, get to that next chapter, that next tell-all moment to get some of the real details. But she did go there. She did share some of what's up with Kanye with us in this reunion special. She didn't want to specify, exact play-by-plays of what led to their split, which I think is so understandable. But she did share, quote, "It was not like one specific thing that happened on either part. I think it was just a general difference of opinions on a few things that led to this decision, and in no way would I want someone to think I didn't give it my all or I didn't try." Which, I mean, just for a second, going back to the Kris Humphries of it all, I do think that was a bit of a prevalent narrative was, how can you know if this marriage isn't right? It's just been 72 days. Did you even try? So that's something that it feels like is really important to her to convey here with the Kanye divorce. She added,
My marriage with Kanye and my kids is so real and lots of love. And that to me was like my first real marriage.
so this is the marriage that Kim, really takes stock in. And I think that this is the marriage that is probably going to take some time, right, to heal from. She did say, we have an amazing co-parenting relationship and I respect him so much. That was my friend first and foremost for a long time. So I can't see that going away. I will forever be Kanye's biggest fan. He's the father of my kids. He will always be family. So really interesting. It really felt like she had nothing but positive things to say about Kanye. We saw her recently wish him a happy birthday on Instagram. This feels like one of those moments where two people need to go their own way, but there's really no hatred or no negativity behind the scenes. So really happy for Kim to hear her saying this and to see her be, in this kind of place. We do know there have been all sorts of rumors about Kanye moving on, and there have been some about Kim too. She denied she's not currently dating anybody. She denied dating Van Jones. She denied dating Maluma. I mean, rumors are starting to pop up, but Kim is totally single right now. It feels like she's just making some really important choices for where she wants her life to go. She's kind of taking stock of things. She's 40. She's reevaluating. Listen, I mean, Mariah, from where I'm sitting, it feels like Kim is taking stock of her life. She's making choices that she needs to make, and she's ready to sort of start a totally fresh chapter. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Absolutely. Coming from a marriage that, she put 100% of her effort into and trying to make it work, but it just came down to differences and opinions. And, that is okay. That sometimes it just comes down to something as little as that. Nothing huge and nothing major. But it's totally normal for someone fresh out of a divorce to try to set up a new path and to find something that's going to work for them, work for their family moving forward. And it sounds like she's doing that. If she is dating anybody, she's keeping it totally secret, which I don't blame her for, because it is well within her rights to finally have a relationship that is not on the front page of every newspaper and magazine. So I'm happy for Kim. I think she's finally or not that she wasn't in a good place, but I think that she's in a very independent place right now, in a place that is only going to give her more growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we saw her talk about this in the finale episode of Keeping Up, right? Like, she realized that she wants more than having a husband who lives in a different state and being, just totally fulfilled by her kids. She wants more than that for herself. So I think it's going to be really great to see, maybe it's further down the line, but whatever this next chapter is for Kim, I hope she finds, of course, all the happiness she's looking for. Aside from the Kanye divorce, I think another really difficult thing Kim's had to go through in these last few years is that Paris robbery and, of course, all of the fallout from it. We've seen Kim open up about it before, but during the reunion special, she really made it clear that it absolutely changed what she values in life. She said she no longer keeps expensive jewelry at her house, saying that at a certain time she thought that, quote, made her. She admitted that it was sort of an obsession with the material goods for a while, saying
the things I valued before that happened were genuinely completely different than what I value now. Things don't make me.
And Khloe actually chimed in saying that Kim is a more attentive sister following the experience. I mean, we have talked about this before. I can't even begin to imagine how horrific that was to go through, how strong she is to, be able to sit there and talk about it now. I mean, truly, honestly, a horrible thing. But I think what's really impressive is how she has this strong and great perspective on it today, and how she's let it sort of lead to positive change in her life. It takes a lot of strength to be able to do that.
For sure. I mean, listen, it's hard to say at least there was a lesson learned, because nobody should have to go through something like that, regardless of, a lesson that could be learned or something positive you can take away from it. Nobody should have to go through something so traumatic, but it did teach her a lesson that she can pass down and shares with the rest of her family. Always be on guard, be aware of your surroundings, protect yourself, a safety issue, but also most importantly, to remind you what really is important, what really is valuable. And it's not your possessions. It's not all the jewelry or designer things you can have, which we know this whole family is infamous for having all of these beautiful designer, just amazing material items, and we love them for it. But it's a full circle moment for her to realize, you know, what's most important, and she can share that message with her family, with her kids, and she's sharing it with the world right now during this reunion. So it's definitely a great perspective to have. Again, gosh, I hate that that happened to her. I don't think anybody should have to experience that trauma in order to learn any type of lesson. But you know what? If you're going to experience something hard, you know it's going to make you stronger in the end. And that's exactly what's happened for Kim.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. We're going to pivot here to Kourtney because obviously Kim had a lot to say. Khloe had a lot to say. There was so much. I'm telling you guys, they really, really went for it. And this is just part one. It's crazy. But let's talk Kourtney for a second because the biggest thing with Kourtney to come out of this part one of the reunion was that she revealed she thinks she and Scott maybe could have made it work off camera. When asked would they still be together, she responded,
Probably, but I think everything happens for a reason. That's what was meant to be, you know?
Now, we are going to see more from Kourtney and Scott in part two. Fans are obviously obsessed with them, but it was really interesting to hear her say this. I mean, over the years, I have been so hopeful that those two would find their way back. And like personally, right now, I'm not Scott Disick's biggest fan. I mean, their relationship and the way it has unfolded on reality TV is kind of unprecedented if you think about it. These two and their will they, won't they, what are they, has captured an audience like I don't know if any other real life relationship that I can think of has kind of done, with so much being exposed to the world. I do think this perspective that they maybe didn't have a chance to make it work because there were too many people involved, too many opinions, too much pressure on their relationship. If we really think about it, all of this started when they were so young. I mean, I don't know. What were your thoughts hearing her say this?
You know, I think there's 100% truth to that, and that can be said for any relationship that is in the public spotlight. However, with Kourtney and Scott, now I'm not an insider. I don't see them day to day. I don't know the ins and outs of their relationship, but I do feel like mainly it comes down to individual decisions that are made, choices that are made, lifestyle preferences that just do not align with one another. So maybe without the show, maybe, you know, nobody would have adapted to a certain type of lifestyle or what have you. I think that what it comes down to is choices that were made, not so much that they were in the spotlight and they just couldn't really find their groove. Of course, I love seeing their moments together. I think it's so interesting the relationship they have because they do co-parent and they do still kind of have this somewhat banter with one another, and it's kind of charming and fun to watch. But, you know, we know that they're both in separate relationships too. So I think a lot of us are still kind of like, oh, is there something still there? Like, do we see chemistry? Is there any potential to get back together? And maybe so. Maybe we'll find out more in part two. But again, they're both in serious relationships. I mean, who knows what could really come out of those relationships for either of them. But I hope that we do get a little bit more insight because I think all of the Keeping Up fans have been wanting Kourtney and Scott to get back together. I'm not sure if that's ever going to happen because, again, I think lifestyle choices just don't completely line up with or without a TV show. But it was interesting to hear her say that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this is just part one of the special, you guys. We know there's going to be a part two. We know that they're going to really go there on this subject. So it's going to be really interesting to watch, to see it all play out. Especially knowing this little piece that we got in just part one. We're going to be obviously hearing from Scott. We've seen Andy ask the tough questions so far. There's a lot to look forward to in part two, obviously, but hopefully this conversation between Kourtney and Scott and some of these choices. I mean, Mariah, we've heard Kourtney say something very similar, that there are certain things she needs from him. There are certain choices that were made along the lines that were just non-negotiable. So that's everything we have to share with you for now, you guys. They really gave us a lot to digest in the first part of this reunion special, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot to digest after part two as well. For now, we want to know your thoughts on all of these revelations. What stood out to you the most? What were you maybe hoping to hear more about? Let us know down in the comments. And of course, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure you do. Make sure you ring the bell so you don't miss out on any future videos. As always, I am your host, Fiona Zaring, joined by the wonderful Mariah Davis. If you want to come say hi, check out our socials. They are on the screen right now. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.